Hi, my name is Tyler Cohen Wood, and I'm here today with Amanda Witten to talk about some of the challenges that we face in the cybersecurity industry. Welcome, Amanda. It's so good to see you, and I'm excited to talk to you about these critical gaps.
I am a huge fan. I'm so excited as well. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. I think the question that we should start with is, how did you get into the world of cybersecurity? Because I know each woman has a very unique story, and I really would love to hear yours.
Well, it doesn't have an exciting beginning. Once upon a time, I was an accountant, or rather was in school for accounting. And a component of that education was around fraud, right? And with IT being the support for all of the financial industry, it was quickly growing as something that was very important to know. Unfortunately, academia was very much behind what I felt was actually reflected right in the world. Right. So while I got my degree in accounting, I focused on information systems, data analytics, and then joined an accounting firm doing their IT kind of controls. Wow. So it was simply being bored and realizing that the world has a lot more out there than numbers.
What a great story. And that's so important, because you went from a different vertical into cybersecurity. And I think a lot of people are doing that. I'm a lot older than you. So I started my career in 1999 in cybersecurity, and I moved to San Francisco because I knew that was pretty much the only place that would hire someone that had a brain but didn't have a cyber background at all. And do you know how I got my first job in cybersecurity? It's actually because of my name, because back then in the old days, we didn't have social media. There was no face to a name. And my name is Tyler. My middle name is Kevin. So when I would send emails to different job perspectives, they would respond. And when I'd come in for the interview, they'd be like, whoa, I didn't expect you to be a woman. And that's really how I got into it.
I love that. I also love that my first job was also in San Francisco for the same reason. Wow. I realized that if I wanted the opportunities, I had to go where the opportunities were. And so what a funny story that we both share.
I know, that's really cool. So another question that I'm really excited to get to is, based on a recent report from Ivanti, the Press Reset Cybersecurity report, there's a lot of discussion about the current landscape and the labor shortage, especially of women in the cybersecurity space. What do you think that we can do to really fix this problem, to get more women and girls and people into cybersecurity?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the report is echoed by ISACA and the US federal government and many agencies that are all raising alarms for the shortage of cybersecurity professionals. It's funny because I think that the barrier is a lot less of a learning curve or right. a lack of knowledge, and a lot more of a metaphorical barrier or an invented barrier where you have to be a certain genius rocket scientist. Yep. Exactly. And that's daunting. People don't even consider it, when the reality is, with the right level of curiosity, the right level of desire to learn, and the right interest, you can move from accounting into cybersecurity. The opportunities are there. The resources are readily available. I think that there are many people. I don't know if you're a Reddit. I'm sure you're a Reddit person, but if you follow some of the some of the Reddit threads, people are interested. They want to work. Yep. They have a fascination, and the question is, well, same question you're asking. What do I do? The answer is start learning the take advantage of the opportunities. Yep. Ivanti uses a lot of LinkedIn learning, but there's also available learning that's even free on Udemy. You can order, any number of recommended books. You don't have to go back for a formal education in computer science to get into cybersecurity. It's about practical skills, and you can get those by signing up for your own AWS account and spinning up a couple instances, or the fun white hat hacking type of opportunities, right? The bug hunts and things that you can do that are ethical and benefit, the society as a whole. Get on message boards, start asking people where to start. The opportunities are absolutely there. And I will say too that Ivanti, we're very much focused on the skill set of a person and not the education.
What a great answer. You know what? I love what you said about the barrier being metaphorical, because you're 100% right. Because one thing that people, in different verticals, like maybe there's a woman who's working in HR. Well, cybersecurity is not just sitting in a corner drinking Jolt Cola and coding. There's so many opportunities within cybersecurity: marketing, sales, different types of cybersecurity. I worked with a young girl. I kind of helped mentor her, and she knew she wanted to do something in cybersecurity, but she didn't know what the options were. And yeah, I just kind of had a feeling that she would probably really like forensics. So I talked to her, about digital forensics, and she's like, yes. And so that's what she's doing now. But, even people mid-level or even senior in their career, we need you in cybersecurity. So it's an easier jump than people may think. And I love the way you put that, the barrier being metaphorical. That's just brilliant. I may have to steal that. Sorry.
Not a problem. I do love that your recommendation was in forensics. Given your background, I think you're a little partial there.
Yes. Yes, that is true. So this I found absolutely fascinating. So in the same press reset cybersecurity report by Ivanti, there was a statement that 1 in 3 C-suites clicks on phishing links. What do you think the problem is, and how can we change this behavior?
The problem is a tough one that I think is an umbrella, a cascading or pervasive rather problem over everyone in business who's not exposed to cybersecurity. And that is just simply a level of ignorance, and certainly not a purposeful one, and not in a negative way. It's simply the lack of information of the risk, right? And so when you hit a certain level in business, in any industry, what risk is, you understand risk, you've heard it before, right? What gets challenging is understanding what the translation of the risk is to dollars, because that's what our executives speak in is dollars, right?
Yes.
That's not easy to do. To translate what would happen if we got this type of attack, for example, a phishing attack, right? In a huge company or even a small company, how do you quantify it, right? So there's challenges there, but I think the number one thing is simply being able to understand that risk, of which we know is prolific,
right?
That risk has actual impact. It is not something that is, in the ether and intangible. There are ways to quantify, and by taking the time to understand that, I think that level of understanding will precipitate further learning in the importance of cybersecurity.
Wow, that is such a great answer. One of the things that I've noticed, so I've been doing keynotes, and I talk to a lot of CISOs and CEOs a lot, and I've really been doing this since 2014. And around roughly like around 2019 to the present, I started noticing that if you tell someone in a presentation or you give the advice, if you click that link, you could be exposing your company to ransomware with money, monetary loss, and fines. And I realized that if you phrase it different and make it personal, it has a bigger impact. For example, if you were to take that same statement and say, if you click this link, your company could get ransomware. But not only that, but you could actually be allowing hackers into your home, and they could have access to your daughter or kids' computers or webcams. And when you say it that way, people take note and they listen, because at the end of the day, the techniques that you're going to use to secure your environment are going to be the same, whether it's a personal or whether it's business. And it just has a bigger impact. And I've noticed that seems to make a difference when you make it personal.
Yeah, you're 100% right. In fact, it was not even that long ago, Ivanti was going through our detective type measures, right? We want to keep things safe. And we detected something that was not ended up not being dangerous. We caught it way in advance. Our teams were doing an excellent job. Right. But at the time, we had groups all around the world making sure that things were safe and secure and protected. And it occurred to me that, for us, it's a database, right? It's just lines of, information. It doesn't mean anything. But the reality is, in those hacks, even if you take away the personal impact, like directly to you or your computer, or the dollar signs, there are still real people whose real information, and we all know doxing and we see how dangerous that can be. We've got to remember that while we're talking about ones and zeros and computers, the human element, you cannot take that out of the equation. That's I think absolutely the right way to look at it. I think you're absolutely spot on.
Well, it's interesting too, because I've also noticed that there are more potential hacks. Like I get at least 8 texts or emails every day now about something ridiculous, like the tax scams. Oh, those ones are coming out now too. And, it's important to just kind of stop and really think about everything before you do it or post it. And, one of the biggest issues that C-suites face is business email compromise. And there is such a simple solution to that problem. Business email compromise is where somebody, a hacker or, a threat actor, they send an email or a phone call or something along the lines to try to get someone in the financial team to wire money out as an emergency. There is a very simple fix for that. And that fix is have a code word. So if the finance person gets a phone call or an email that seems to be coming from the CEO, well, all they have to do is say, what's the code word? And that will stop that in its tracks. And, you change the code word, you make it something kind of ridiculous that no one would really be able to pick up on. And, that would go, that's a low tech solution to a high tech problem.
Making it almost fun.
Yes.
That's interesting. I like that.
It's interesting. So as a woman in tech, we've all had our own unique experiences, but what advice would you have given to your younger self when you were first entering this career? I know what mine would be.
Please share.
When I was the deputy division chief at the Defense Intelligence Agency, my office chief was this incredible woman. And she said to me once, she said, because I went to a meeting, she said, where did you sit? I said, in the back chair. She said, no, always take a seat at the table. And you know what? From then on, I did.
Wow, what an incredible mentor you had.
I know, I was exactly.
You know, mine, I think I would tell myself that it is acceptable to feel strong emotion and be passionate, and that I wish early on I learned to communicate it better. But it is a fire that I am able to wield and get things done. You know, I love what I do. I'm really excited about things. I get, disappointed in things, and it's absolutely acceptable as a woman to go through those emotions and show those emotions. It's about how you do it. I think that's what I would tell myself. I might not get in so much trouble that way, and it might not be as fun, but
well, I thought what I would have told myself is don't worry so much. But frankly, that's part of being a cybersecurity expert. You're supposed to be a little paranoid because you're always looking for what the potential threats and hacks are going to be.
What if? What if?
Yep. Yeah. What if?
Absolutely.
So what do you think that we can do to really not only get young girls interested in cybersecurity, but older adults as well?
Let me ask you a question and what you think.
Sure.
So, and can I preface this? Like,
absolutely.
Hot take, everybody, hot take. All right. It's either going to be unpopular opinion or spicy AF. We'll see how people take it.
I like spicy.
So I think that the biggest challenge for me, and the biggest challenge that I see in women in tech and women in the workplace, is the difference in communication and management style between men and women. Right. Right. I think that we often we disadvantage ourselves. Well, let me say we are at a disadvantage. Hold off on the self part yet. We are at a disadvantage because of how women tend to act, react, communicate, and manage teams, as well as things like receive praise, right? We have a more passive voice. We tend to acknowledge the contribution of others when rewarded for our work. We like you and I actually, I'll point something out that both you and I do. We nod because we want to feel understood, and we nod as women to show that we understand, right? Men don't need that, right? When a woman is given praise, it's thanks. I had a really good team. When it's a man, traditionally it's thank you. I did a great job. I worked really hard, right? So my question, if that's the case, I have found my success because I changed that about myself. I learned early, similar to you. I take a seat at the table. I speak my mind. I am, I demand the level of respect. I say things with a less passive tone because I identified that was the case. So let me ask you: should the advice to women, young and old, be learn how to communicate in the workplace to make yourself more successful, right? Which is being more assertive and those type of things. Or do men need to understand how women communicate and the value of the way we communicate and what we hold as important, because it's different? Whose responsibility is it?
Honestly, I think both of those things can be true. And I think that it is, it's going to have to come from women and men. Because like, I'll tell you, I worked for the DoD for a very long time, and DIA, which is part of DoD, but it's very male dominated. And, it was very difficult for me at first to be as assertive as I needed to be because, I was kind of more passive, like you said. And, one of the things that I would always do is if someone on my team did something incredible, I would make damn sure that everybody knew that they did something incredible. But if they messed up, it was my fault and I would take the blame for it. And and I think that's a good management style. I don't want to lose that, but you're right 100% about being assertive and being confident, because I will tell you this, courage is about being afraid, but doing it anyway. And I think
true.
that's something that women, we really do. And you're right, we do communicate in a different way. But frankly, that's awesome, because that helps bring diversity into the development of the product, the sale of the product, having more eyes with different perspectives on what is being developed and what your cybersecurity strategies are. I think that's how we're going to win.
It's actually interesting that you said that part about the conquering fear, because I think the real pivotal moment in my career and moving into cybersecurity was sitting at a table, at the head of the table, because, you know, take a seat at the table, in a room full of engineers and developers and information security professionals, asking questions for a security questionnaire, right? And I didn't understand something, and I realized I can either walk away saying I don't know, right, and have somebody else come in behind me and figure this out, or I can just ask. But that's scary. Admitting that you don't know is scary. And you know, the internal battle. And then I just asked, and the whole room lit up. They were so excited to tell me all about it. It was just like a light bulb moment when I realized it's okay not to know. So 100%, you know. But I got one more thing before I turn it back over to you. You kind of make an interesting point, right? Because you're saying men and women should both learn the difference, right? And I agree. But then contradict it with, but be assertive.
Yes.
So,
yes.
You know, I get it. I'm with you. I'm in the same boat. I don't have the right answer. I think communication is the biggest key to women's success in the workplace. We already established anybody with the right passion can learn cybersecurity. That is, there's no barrier there. There's no barrier. I think the real barrier is in the case of women and us learning that adaptation in communication.
Yeah, I really love the point, you know, that you make, because, you know, it's important to be assertive when you need to be assertive, and you do need to be assertive. But it's also important to ask the question if you don't know the answer, just like you did, for clarification, not for the question to be given to somebody else. And, you know, also know when to sit back and really look through all of the potential options and outcomes before, you know, jumping ahead. And, you know, I will tell you, I had to learn very quickly when I moved to DIA to be much more assertive. And, you know, it was really a challenge at first, but, you know, there were often times where you're trying to get funding for one of your programs, and, you know, you've got a colonel yelling in your face, and you have to stand and you cannot back down at all. And that was something that was hard to learn to do, but I did it. But also it's important to know when, because sometimes the best way to move forward is by taking a step back first, looking at all the options, and then moving forward.
Yeah. And as you said, women are really good at that. And I will just nod back to the piece where, you know, we're not just saying that women have to be more assertive, that you know, that men also deserve the opportunity to learn and understand more. Part of that communication, right? And part of that being assertive is saying how you feel when something comes up. When I started being able to, you know, understand when there was a gap, and I would go to whoever, my manager at the time is a really good example, and I would say, hey, I need to tell you how I feel about this. I need you to understand this situation and how I feel. And it would 180. he would absolutely be there. Yeah, please, like, let's sit, let's talk. He would drop everything. And that's been consistent, that taking that approach across my career. I have always found that the men that I've worked with in the workplace have been receptive and have been advocates for change. So, unfortunately that was on me to correct or to say something, but at the same time, how else is it going to happen? Right. We've got to, and so I would encourage that to be, so I guess if we're summarizing, it's be assertive and don't be afraid, because it's okay not to know. It's okay to not have the answer, right? Totally fine. Totally fine. Men do it all the time. Don't worry about it. So and then lastly, you've got to communicate. You've got to tell them. We have to tell them. So don't be afraid. Just tell them how you feel. I hope that everyone will have as good experiences as I have. And then the last thing is, remember, oh my God, you absolutely can get into cybersecurity. Like, just, there's so many avenues. Please, we would absolutely love to have the perspective of different people with different backgrounds. We have a history guy, and we have a math guy, and we have a psychology major. We have an accounting major with myself. I mean, and they all bring such important perspectives to the team. So the opportunities are there.
It's funny, because after you said that about the nodding, I'm like actually trying not to nod, but I noticed that I do nod a lot. So I just learned something too. All right. Last but not least, crystal ball time. What cybersecurity threats do you see on the horizon, and new technologies that will help with some of those threats?
The hot topic right now is AI. Right.
It is.
And it's funny to say new threat on the horizon, because it's here, right? It's no longer on the horizon, but similar to how it always is in security of any kind. There's a threat, and then you evolve to defeat it, right? You rise to it. Yeah. So the threat is here, right? Do we have the ability in information security and cybersecurity to leverage AI to counter this? Absolutely, at some point. I haven't seen it demonstrated yet. I haven't seen it applicable use, right? That's accomplishing things yet, but you can't like have a brain and not think that we'll be able to, right? That there's absolutely ways that AI is going to improve everyone's lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Artists to cybersecurity professionals, right? But I think right now that's really where the threat is. In my opinion, aside from potential biases and the ability to humanize an attack without having a human there, right? Aside from those obvious reasons, I think the misinformation, which is, I apologize, it's kind of a politically charged word right now, but just simply not having the right information from the right source and not having any validation of whether that's true or not. I think it's a fundamental problem that, based on my background experience and what I do at Ivanti, is where my biggest concern is. But they're smart. Those little AI is getting real smart real fast. So it is. I think it's a hot topic because it's cool, and also because it's legitimately something that's pretty scary.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's scary if it's not done properly, but I love what your answer is, because health tech is a really big sweet spot for me. I'm very invested in it, and in terms of healthcare, well, AI is going to become so powerful that it will enable physicians and different healthcare professionals to really, really help diagnose, help with treatment plans, help with the next steps. And I think that's an area that really, really needs a lot of cybersecurity help.
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite answer to threats on the horizon is actually like what's going to happen in space, right? Like we're starting to
Oh
claim
yeah,
space, and you know, I'm a James Webb fan. I follow and get notification, like it's just silly or whatever, but like the capabilities that we're starting to develop there, that's going to be really interesting as well. So that's me nerding out.
absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, that is a lot of incredible information. Amanda, thank you so much. You have really, really been an incredible person to talk to. And, I really look forward to getting to know you better. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
So fun. It's been a blast. I really appreciate you having me.